start.
Okay.
Today
Okay,
is
we don't
the
want-
day after Thanksgiving 2018, and we have got 3 former United States aviators here with us today. We want to thank all 3 of you for being here. And we wanted to start off with your names and your birth dates. Can we start with you?
Dick Graham, 11/22/19.
Tell Nick Graham.
Dick,
Dick Graham, November 22nd, 1918.
1919.
1919 he was born.
I'm Bill Campbell, born in December 30th, 1927.
Bill Campbell, 1927.
Chris Smith, September 11th, 1975.
So these 3 men are sitting here, and what they have in common is they are all aviators.
Naval aviators.
But
We're flyers, yeah.
aviators.
Marine Corps aviator.
Marine Corps aviators. I don't think he wants to be known as a naval aviator.
Although it is the Department of the Navy's Marine Corps.
Okay, so 3 naval aviators. All have served our country and all during times of war. Is that correct?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so it's pretty interesting. We have 3 men here serving 8 decades of service. Pretty special. Thank you
I
for
was
being
in
here.
2 wars.
2 wars. I would want to ask you, where did all of you grow up?
I grew up in Pennsylvania.
Dick, you grew up in Pennsylvania,
Michigan.
Michigan,
Georgia.
Georgia. And what made you decide to serve?
There was a war on in 1940. 1940, we were getting ready, the nation was getting ready to do something about what Germany was doing.
So it was 1940 for you.
Yeah.
And did you choose to serve on your own, or were you
No, I
drafted?
No, I enlisted.
You enlisted on your own? Okay. Mr. Campbell,
And,
what made you decide to serve?
well, I was born in Detroit, Michigan, and I always wanted to fly. And I thought the World War II was going to be over before I got my chance. And then they opened up a program, so I joined the Navy in 45.
I'm here till 4 today.
And under a program called Aviation Midshipman.
7:30 to 8.
And it was an unusual program in that you became a midshipman, USN.
Okay.
And the only USN people were the Academy.
Probably not today.
And,
The staff is out.
So the Washington
on holiday.
people, the admirals, were all
Yeah.
USN,
Yeah, I can put it in our
but
HR
from the
office
Academy,
on
and we
Monday.
were those. They actually called us the hooligan.
Ah.
But anyway,
So you wanted to serve during the war, and you felt like you weren't.
well, the war was getting over, Steve. So, but anyway, it didn't, they started this new program before the war was over, and I was lucky enough to get started. So we were 2 years as a midshipman. We actually went to the fleet as midshipmen, pilots. And we made $78 a month plus $39 flight pay.
Okay, we want to get into that. Hold on here. Chris, when did you decide you wanted to serve?
Unfortunately, mine is nowhere near as noble as theirs is. I'm always embarrassed to say it. I saw a movie called Top Gun in the mid-'80s when I was in like 5th or 6th grade, and that's what made me decide to want to fly.
And how old are you now?
How old am I now?
Mhm.
42.
Mr. Campbell?
I'll be 91 next month.
99.
99. You just had a birthday yesterday.
Yesterday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And who was president when you served as a Marine aviator?
Franklin Roosevelt,
Franklin Roosevelt.
mostly.
Yeah.
For you, Mr. Campbell?
Well, Roosevelt was still president.
Roosevelt. And for you, Chris?
George Bush, and then Barack Obama.
Here's a question I was curious about for pilots. What was your vision when you were a pilot?
Good.
Because I remember that being a big deal for him.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't get the surgery, and he really wanted to be a pilot and was worried about his eyesight going bad.
Mine's still good.
What was your eyesight at the time?
The same as it is now.
That's amazing.
Which is what? Which is 20/20 perfect
Yeah.
vision?
Yeah.
Perfect vision.
This is Lori.
2010.
2010. Wow.
Mine was 2010, and then got worse over time.
Okay, yeah. And what plane
I was
did
a
you,
parachutist in World War II.
you started off as a parachuter?
Since I fly was a better deal than living in a hole in
No
the
doubt.
ground.
So you started off as a parachuter?
Yeah.
And then eventually transitioned into aviation?
Yeah.
And what plane did you fly?
The F-3D was the last one.
What is it?
The F-3D was the last one.
The S-3D. And what were the other planes you flew?
I flew in F-7S at the end of World War II.
F-7S.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Campbell, what did you fly?
A lot. Start out after training into Corsairs, and probably no one knows what that is now.
F4Us.
F4U, bent wing airplane, and I flew F6s, F8s, F9s, TVMs. I flew with the British in Arabia.
Oh my goodness, quite a few airplanes, which
Yeah.
is interesting because now, these day and age, Chris, what plane did you fly?
I flew just a single airplane, the F-18 Hornet.
So,
So just one, just one.
okay. And what war did you fight?
World War I was a parachute. World War II. Well, I was a parachutist and I flew in the Korean War.
So you were a parachuter in World War II and a pilot in the Korean War.
I flew with the F-3D in the Korean War.
Okay, the F-3D in the Korean War. Mr. Campbell, you were,
I graduated, when I went to the fleet, I was still a midshipman, and it was a different program. And when we went there, the officer of the deck, duty officer, wouldn't sign us in, because we were still midshipmen with a little thin stripe, and he said, "This is not a training squadron." We said, "No, we have our wings." He said, "That don't mean a damn thing." So he went to see the captain, and me and this other fella who were, when you get your wings, you think you're pretty good. And so anyway, we went to see the captain, and he says, "What in the H are you guys?" We said, "We're midshipmen." He says, "You're not coming here. This is not a training squadron." We said, "No, we have pilot's wings. We're aviators." I don't give a darn about that. He said, "You got that little skinny." He thought we were cadets, right? Right. But okay, let them go. But anyway,
can I interrupt you for just 1 minute because
Yeah.
Mr. Dick needs to leave soon. We have a couple of 7th grade boys here. May they ask you a question? It's really special for them to get to be here.
Quick.
Make it quick. Okay, Oliver, Thomas, and Connor, can y'all come over here?
Yes.
So this is Oliver Smith from Richmond, Virginia, and Connor Flanagan and Thomas Flanagan from Greenville, South Carolina. Thomas, what would you like to ask?
Yes. Did you guys ever do something in the air you didn't want to do?
Did you ever do something in the air that you didn't want to do?
That's a hard question. You want to stay airborne. That's for sure.
What is that?
A safe landing after you was up flying.
Yeah, and you, one takeoff or one landing for every takeoff, right? That's the goal.
That'll do it. That'll do it.
Okay, why don't we ask Mr. Dick one more question and we'll let him scoot and then y'all could ask the other aviators a couple questions. Oliver, did you want to ask a question?
Did you ever have anything go wrong in the airplane? Like with the airplane?
Yes, I was in a crash in 1950 something.
No kidding.
What airplane were you flying when you were in your crash?
It was an F-7F.
S-7S? And what happened?
The landing gear collapsed.
The landing gear collapsed?
Yeah.
On when you were touching down?
Yes, the right landing gear collapsed.
Did you skid off the runway?
Yes.
Did you land on aircraft carriers?
The what?
Did you land on aircraft carriers?
No, thank you.
No.
Can I go now?
Yes, you can. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Happy
Can I
birthday.
get out?
Go the other way.
Yep. Yes, we're gonna do this.
Thank you, sir. Nice to meet you.
What are you gonna do with it?
Mhm. So it is streaming on Fox, South Carolina Fox News right now.
Thank you for your time. It was nice to meet you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Be great.
Yeah, yes.
What a set of stories, huh?
No, thank you. I like that.
Mr. Campbell, did anything ever happen, did anything ever go wrong for you and the aircraft?
Yeah, I had 2 or 3 stop in the air, and had to get down. But I was lucky enough to be in the United States. And so I got to a field and landed in the field.
Did you land with the engines working and?
No, the engine wasn't working.
So you landed in the field more than once without your engine working?
Yep, but always made it to an airport. So they call it dead stick.
That sticked it.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
So these are single seat, a lot of your aircraft were single engine aircraft, right?
Yeah, single engine, single seat.
Jet engines.
And jet engine. I never landed a jet though that was running, but I landed several propeller airplanes that were running.
Did you ever land on aircraft carriers?
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
What
okay.
boats did you fly on?
a lot. Like FDR and,
So these are the aircraft carriers that he's flown on, or the FDR.
yeah, Jeep carriers, a lot of Jeep carriers. I should have brought the list. I
Chris,
brought
what
a-
did you land on?
The Kitty Hawk, which probably the keel was probably laid while you were still in service, because what year did you get out?
68.
So the keel on the Kitty Hawk was laid in '61. So the Kitty Hawk was in service. Did you ever fly off the Kitty Hawk?
No, flew off the FDR and another big one.
So the Kitty Hawk was the one I flew off the most, and then the Enterprise, the Reagan, the Roosevelt, different version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's two, the Roosevelt was a class,
That's yep.
and what was the other one? The other, the same class, same carrier, same class of carriers.
Mm-hmm. So you were flying during the Korean War.
Yeah.
And you were flying during Iraqi freedom.
Yep.
So what countries did you primarily fly over during that time?
Well, I was in the Navy for 22 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I flew the whole time, except the first couple of years when I was in training. And I flew with the British, so I flew out in Arabia. I've flown pretty much all around the world, except not in South America.
During wartime, during the Korean War, what countries did you fly over?
During the Korean War, we were assigned to Europe, because the Russians were in Europe, so we were flying out of Europe. You know, you can only be in one spot to the other, and I was on the East Coast squadron,
Mm-hmm.
and we were in Europe, and we were at Ready. We had ammunition in the gun tubs, and we only could have 10% of the crew ashore. So if you're only in a place in Europe for 5 days or 6 days, you got a half a day off the ship. And so if you were a touring guy, you got from 8 o'clock in the morning till 6 or whatever it was. And then if you like to have a drink, well, you'd go in the evening. And that you could go to a port and not get off the ship.
Wow.
So, but everybody was tight.
So during that Korean War, you were flying over Germany,
Yeah.
France,
Yep.
England,
Mediterranean. No, not
Italy.
Yeah, well, not Italy.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Chris, where did you fly primarily during Iraqi freedom?
Iraq. Pretty much only over Iraq. So again, it's just a lot less interesting than what you did.
I was a navigator on a ship and took a ship up to into Iraq to Basra, and there's a river called Shat El Arab River comes through Iraq, and I was on a flagship seaplane tender, and I was a navigator. So we went up the river to Basra, and the people were lined on boat, on the other side was, where you guys, but anyway, there's Basra and then there's, I forget, and I was a navigator. No, but
You got 'em
anyway,
there.
we'd fire a 21 gun salute. And these people were like 5 and 6 deep all along the edge of the river. In the first round, every person on the shore went right down flat on the ground.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
I bet they were. Well, what was the mission of your airplane during the Korean War? What was your airplane supposed to do?
It was what they call it, a fighter attack.
So were you trying to attack and fight airplanes in the air or things on the ground?
Well, as soon as they got radar control guns, the fighter attacked people. If you were in your dive, we used to do dive bombing because that's the only way you could hit a target. You could not hit a ship dropping bombs level. You had to be in
How
a dive.
interesting, wow.
And so anyway,
So you dropped bombs primarily then, during that?
yeah, well, we had guns, but
Okay.
but if you're going against radar controlled guns, I mean, you just got shot up, that's all.
So were there other Korean people in the air that you were fighting against, or was it all air to ground combat?
Air to ground.
Air to ground. And Chris, how about you during Iraqi freedom?
All air to ground.
So no air to
No
air
air to
combat?
air.
Well, they didn't have any airplanes, you know.
Yeah.
That should be
Well,
fine. Okay.
you're in Iraq,
Oh, yeah,
right?
but,
They buried them.
Probably till 8 o'clock.
They buried many of their squatters. Did you know that? When they were,
shot down.
no, the Iraqis buried a bunch of their MiGs
Oh,
on
yeah,
their way
yeah,
out.
yeah.
On their way out of town.
And they sent them to the other
And they
country.
sent some of them to Syria
Syria, no,
and flew some of them into Iran.
Iran.
Yeah.
And the Iranians kept the airplanes.
Hmm.
And, but the Americans wouldn't sell them parts. So in a little while, they were not flying, they were flying.
So you mentioned you were in the service for 22 years in the
Yeah.
Navy. What did you go do after that? How do you
Oh,
find a job after?
I was a very good engineer,
Oh, really?
yeah, and, I joined a company in Washington DC, and I was the first employee. There was 6 guys joined the company, and, they were all very good engineers, and I was a good engineer. And we grew, and when I left, they had 1,300 people.
Wow.
What was the name of the company?
Syscon, SYSCON, still in, and we were on the, I guess we were on the over-the-counter, but we're a regular company.
Now, is that something you had to go back to school for when you got out of the Navy, engineering school?
No. Well, while I was in the Navy, I'd also went to electronics school. And they gave you 4 years of electronic courses in 9 months, I think it was.
Hmm.
So you just studied electronics. And I was pretty good.
Was it, did it give you the same job satisfaction
Oh, no.
as a naval aviator?
No. And then when I retired from that, I became a certified financial planner. And then when I retired for that, I became an election commissioner.
Oh, my goodness.
You had 4 different careers.
And then when I got to be 80, I said, somebody else has got to pick up the load.
Seriously. You make the rest of us feel very lazy.
Now, Chris, how many years were you in the Navy?
11.
11 years, and what did you do when you got out?
I went to business school
Mm-hmm.
and then started over my second career as an investment banker. Focused on aerospace and defense companies. So that was kind of the connection between the flying in the Navy and
Do you have any good tips?
I should be coming to you for the financial advice.
Is your job as exciting now as it was as a naval aviator?
No. There is lots of excitement and it's a lot of fun, but it's no, I mean, it's tough to beat. Tough to beat being a pilot.
Oh, may I ask a question?
Of course.
Did you ever land on the automatic I know you guys used to
We had,
just grab the handhold.
that's right, going off the front.
And not holding onto the controls
You're
at
not
all.
supposed to.
And then, I heard when the weather was really bad, you would have
You could couple up.
some, I don't
Yeah.
know what you did, but it would, the airplane would land by itself on the
Yeah, it was
carrier.
called coupling up. So you would, did you guys have, you used an ILS, right? Did you have like a, what did you have for bringing you back to the ship? Only a tachyon? And just eyes? Yeah. I never would have made it.
Well, that's a-
Did you ever couple up, Chris?
You had to do it like once every 6 months to keep up the qual. Yeah, so you couple up at 3 miles out, and then it would bring you all the way into the wires. It was terrifying. I was much more afraid of that than doing it myself.
I would be too.
Oh, it was-
Although I got, we were up in the Davis Straits. The Russians went under the ice, the North Pole's ice. There's no dirt under the ice of the North Pole. And went down the Davis Straits and showed up in the Atlantic. And the Navy all panicked because they didn't know they were there. And so then I was in an ASW squadron. And so they said, we want you to go up and fly 2 weeks around the clock off of a Jeep carrier. See if you can do it.
What is a Jeep carrier?
A little carrier.
Oh, a
Very-
little aircraft
It's
carrier.
it's an aircraft carrier that a tanker ship, they put a deck on.
like a flat top on top.
So it's still in the ocean, but it's a smaller
It's a
landing?
converted.
Well,
It's not made to be
it's
just
not a
an
little-
aircraft
It's
carrier.
not a tiny airplane, ship, but it can be tiny, you know. Anyway, we were loaded out max. And so next to the last guy to land would go, we had barriers then, we didn't have an angle deck. So if you were gonna crash into these 3 barriers, which were fences, we call them fences with cables across. And I was next to the last, and I went into the slot just ahead of the barrier. There were 3 airplanes there. The guy behind, the last